Hi there. We're going to have a discussion about a topic that I don't think we've discussed on this channel yet. And that is why I'm not a freelance paralegal. So I had this question come in not once, but twice in the past couple of weeks. And so this one actually came in from Laura this past week, who is struggling trying to find a position. She's been a paralegal for a couple of weeks and was recently let go from her position. So, Laura, this one's from you. I can't remember who asked me a week or so ago, but it was, how come you don't do freelance paralegal work? First of all, I think I should clarify, I have never been a freelance paralegal. Even when I left Big Law, I have always done paralegal courses, paralegal training. Initially, even when I first started my business, I was doing paralegal consulting work. I've never done freelance paralegal work. And there's a reason why. So it might even surprise you a little bit. But let me clarify. So first of all, I think in Laura's position, I want to start off by saying, so Laura's position's a little bit different. Laura wrote in and said that she'd only been a paralegal for a few years. I can't remember exactly how long, a couple of years. One of the reasons why I would recommend no for you, Laura, is if you've only been a paralegal for a couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years, less than 5 even, you don't know yet enough what you don't know to be a freelance paralegal. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say that, but you really need to gain more experience. Too often I see people saying, well, I can't find a job as a paralegal, so I'm just going to go be a freelance paralegal. And really, part of being a freelance paralegal is that you have built up a reputation and you can go get enough clients. You have to get clients. If you don't have enough clients, you're not going to be able to support yourself as a freelance paralegal. And part of getting those clients is that you have a reputation in the legal community. And hopefully, you're leaving to start that freelance paralegal work with a base of clients that are going to support you. I guess the flip side of that might be if you have a spouse who is supporting you, where maybe you only need like part-time income. That might be the exception. But let me go through the list of why I am not a freelance paralegal and why, I hate to say it, I don't normally support people being a freelance paralegal. There are a few exceptions. All right, first of all, I would say that you are trading hours for dollars without any benefits, essentially. Um, you are doing the same work that you're doing as a paralegal, only you're getting no benefits, you're getting no retirement package, you're not getting paid time and a half when you're working nights and weekends, you're getting the same pay that you're getting, and you're doing the same work. All right. Now you might say, yeah, but Ann, I get to call my own shots. You do. You get to decide if you're going to work from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And maybe that's good if you want to be able to maybe take care of a child at home. That gives you the flexibility. That is true. That might be a positive. The downside of that is the long term, right? It sounds good if you are in your early 30s, but when you get to be your mid 50s, like me, if you've been doing that and all you've been doing is the freelance work and you haven't been putting aside money into a 401k and you're now looking at retirement in 10 years and you've only been doing the freelance work kind of as a side gig, then that's a huge downside. So there are advantages to working for an employer that you might not think about long term. So I would say ask yourself that. Maybe put in the hours or the time initially at a law firm, gain that experience, gain that time into your 401k, get those 401k matches from the law firm, get that experience, get that reputation, and then take that attorney reputation and clients with you and start the freelance company after you've gained all that experience and built up that 401k retirement. That's what I would say. Anyway, so especially if you're new in your career. The second reason why I would say is that there are so many of them. There are a lot of really good freelance paralegal companies out there. You've probably seen them on LinkedIn. I've actually had a couple of them on the podcast as well. They've built a really good reputation out there, and you're competing against them. You have to build up a marketing, you have to build up advertising, you have to do more than just be a freelance paralegal company. And more so, you're competing against what I have seen out there, and this is the bigger thing. You're now competing against these companies that have huge amounts of paralegals in other countries that are working for like $4 an hour. I've personally talked to them, and it kind of scares me a little bit. There are many of them. Okay, so they are US-based companies who are here in the United States. They charge attorneys, US attorneys, $9 to $15 an hour for paralegals who are over in the Philippines. And these are very hardworking paralegals. They are pretty competent, not competent like US paralegals, but they are pretty competent. And they're paying them $3 to $4 an hour, which is a really good wage over in the Philippines, to do the same work that we are doing. I'm using air quotes, not the same work. But the type of attorneys who are hiring them are the attorneys that you probably see the ads where they want to hire an in-house paralegal for $15 or $20 an hour. But there are all kinds of attorneys out there who will hire them. Those are the attorneys where, as a freelance paralegal, if you go in there, you own your own business and they want to hire you as a freelance paralegal for $20 an hour. You can't run a freelance paralegal business for $20 an hour. That's who you're going to be competing against. And the bigger they get and the longer they stay in business, that's where the freelance paralegal business could go. Add on top of that AI. I just worry, especially now when you're talking about 2025, where you are potentially competing against AI-driven, Philippine, US-owned, business-driven freelance paralegal companies, and you are wanting to go into business as a freelance paralegal with only a couple of years of experience under your belt, I just don't see that as a wise decision. One of the things that I would suggest to you, I will put a link in the description, or if you want, so I'll put it in the description, or if you want, jump in the comments. I did a paralegal resume workshop. Now it's old, it's an older one. I did it in like 2020. I recorded it. It's free. I will put it in. If you jump in the comment section, I'll put a link to it for you. Just put a link to the resume. It's older, but it's got a resume. I did how to do your resume, a LinkedIn profile, interview tips, like questions that you'll want to ask in the interview, to be prepared to answer, just all kinds of stuff. So if you're having a hard time finding a job, at least do some of that first. Go do some searching with, how to use ChatGPT for your help. At least do everything that you can to try to find a job first before you give up and say, just going to go start a freelance paralegal business. Because here's the other thing, and this is the big thing. I probably should have led with this. I'm actually maybe going to go back and put an intro in this. I should have led with this. It all sounds great when you see something like, oh my gosh, you can make 6 figures a year. You can make $100,000 a year. Yeah, you can charge $50 an hour times 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, $100,000 a year. That's not possible. Think about that. Best case scenario, if you were to bill 40 hours of your time a week, which would be almost humanly impossible, right? You can't bill for every single hour that you work. as a freelance paralegal. But let's say you were. You billed 40 hours a week. You worked every single week of the year. You were never sick. You never took a vacation, but you billed 52 of those weeks, 40 hours of every week. So you made $100,000 in a year. You grossed $100,000. If you found an attorney who was willing to pay you $50 an hour because they weren't aware of any of these Filipino sites that they could just pay $15 or $20 an hour, you still have taxes, okay? Let's say 20, 30% taxes on top of that. No health insurance, no health insurance, no retirement, no time off. And that's not even beginning to tell you what it costs to run a business. I won't even go into what it costs to run mine because mine has exponential costs in terms of, course sales and all that kind of stuff. But a service-based business is a little bit different. You'd have a little bit higher profit margin, but you'd be lucky to net $50,000 out of that $100,000 gross. So just be careful when you're looking into some of that. Really do your research and say, what if I did actually bill $100,000 to lawyers as a freelance paralegal, what am I really putting in my pocket and that? And if I do that for the next 20 years, let's say I started at 35, if I do it until I'm 55, what does my retirement account look like? What does my health insurance account look like? What does my savings account look like? Am I just working and billing all of that? Again, look at it more as a long-term thing. Are there other businesses that you could do? Yeah. Anyways, that's why I'm not a freelance paralegal. I'm sorry to bring you down about that. There are lots of other businesses that you could do. I personally, I love being in business for myself. I wouldn't otherwise be in business for 15 years doing what I'm doing, but I could give you a whole other list of reasons why. But that's why I necessarily wouldn't recommend that you, especially if you're just starting out, just because you can't find a job immediately, as a paralegal doesn't mean that you should just think, oh, I should just go be a freelance paralegal. All right. Have a great day. And again, jump in the comments if you need some free advice, free tips on helping you find a position as a paralegal. I'll be happy to send you a link to that workshop I did. Bye for now.